I'm Shelley Zimwalt. I'm the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department. Super excited to be here today. This has been a long journey for, I think, probably everyone in this room, but a lot of people in general. We're excited to announce our new partnership with a local restaurant group that's been chosen to operate our state park restaurants. But first I want to start by telling you a little bit about the process that got us here today. Reopening the restaurants in our state, this is something that I have thought about every single day since becoming the director of this agency, at least multiple times and every day. When thinking through how we wanted this process to go, we really thought of two values that really stood out, and it was integrity and transparency. Once we got integrity and transparency, and we let those be our guiding principles, we had to really define what is success. What is success not only for the agency, what is success for the restaurant group, what is success for the state and the citizens when they are coming to our state parks, when they are enjoying that amenity. We first knew that success wasn't just getting a restaurant operator back in our facilities. It was ensuring that we, at every step of the way, we were handling this process with integrity and transparency that Oklahoma deserves. Without integrity and transparency, we couldn't have found a partner who is as committed and passionate about restoring these amenities to guests while being as successful as possible in the process. If we only had a passionate group with a successful business, but a process that wasn't done with integrity and transparency, we knew that the agency would not be successful. The same is true if we had a pristine process and we didn't have a vendor that was as passionate about doing this right as we are. We wouldn't be standing here today if we weren't fully confident that all those objectives had been met and that we have found the right partner for success. A few more things I want to highlight here before we get to the big reveal. The agency had 7 bids that we received to the RFP. Previously, the agency, when doing RFPs for those restaurants, had received 1 bid multiple times. The evaluation committee did not include myself. I was not on the evaluation committee. It was made up of 7 people from Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department, OMES, and a commissioner from our board, our agency's board, who is an industry expert. This has been one of those announcements that I've looked forward to for a long time, and I'm even more excited to tell you because I think our vendor is just as excited as we are. I'm extremely proud to present to you our new partner for the operations of all 6 Oklahoma state park restaurants, La Ratatouille Incorporated. La Ratatouille is an Oklahoma-based company whose CEO grew up visiting our very own state parks. The restaurant group operates brands you will probably be familiar with, Falcone's Pizzeria, Johnny Cake's Bakery, as well as multiple food trucks and a robust catering arm that we all know will be critical in serving the many groups that visit our parks. They're also deeply embedded in the community with philanthropic efforts serving Feed the Children and Thunder Cares, to name a few. Another thing I just found out moments ago that I think is super impressive. They have a nonprofit organization called MAV, M-A-V, and that stands for Mission American Veteran, which helps any veteran open their own business or restaurant without the burden of upfront capital and infrastructure typically required. Our agency is working closely with the group to fully develop a concept, a name for the restaurants, but as you can see on the posters beside me, they will bring the best of their business combined with American favorites our state knows and loves. And secondary to the question of when are we reopening the restaurants, the next question I have received is, will there be chicken fried steak? And I have it on authority that there will be chicken fried steak. There's no need to email me anymore about chicken fried steak. We will have that on the menu, and I will taste test it myself. There are a couple more things that I want to address before we go to questions that I know all of you have. I want to say this emphatically, and I want to put an exclamation point on it. The state is not subsidizing the restaurant group. Slowly, the state is not subsidizing the restaurant group. The state, as part of the contract, will be receiving 13% of gross receipts each month. Additionally, another point I'd like to make. This process was done in partnership with OMES, the Office of Management and Enterprise Services. The tourism agency has a purchasing exception. We did not choose to exercise that exception with this RFP. In honoring integrity and transparency, the decisions that we made really came back to what is the way that we can do this in a way that the public and any stakeholders, really anyone, will know that we took every opportunity to be transparent. We took every opportunity to have more eyes on this, so we were doing it the right way. So we partnered with OMES, and they were a steadfast partner in making sure this was done right, that everyone was following state law, and that we came out with the best product. And so I want to say thank you to OMES for doing that. They provided everything we needed, and I am confident that we came out with a product and that the process we followed was completely transparent and had integrity. Lastly, reporters in the room, we have handouts for you, and we've done something that I think will put an exclamation point on that transparency piece. I know that part of reporting on this story will be looking into those RFPs and looking into those bids and looking into the contract. And so as part of our commitment to transparency, we have a handout that has a QR code, and all the bid submissions along with the RFP and the evaluation tool can be found there. It's posted online. By the end of the day, we will have all the documents from the RFP process ready. You don't have to open records request them. You can, but anyone can look at those. And we wanted to provide that so that we could set the tone for the way that we will operate as a state agency, but how this process will be done out in the open and with full transparency for the public. I'll take questions.
So when can we expect the new restaurants to open up?
Great question. Memorial Day weekend.
What sort of system will be in place now to make sure there isn't overcharging, there isn't improper business by this new vendor?
The contract. Yeah. The contract doesn't include any construction costs. It's purely for operating the restaurant.
Will there be check-ins with the agency, or is kind of routine meetings between the agency and the vendor as it goes on? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, they're operating in our state parks.
Will there be much renovation needed?
Good question. No. We actually did an RFI, a request for information, previous to the, releasing the RFP. And when doing so, we did tours of the restaurants because we wanted vendors to come in and see what they were. And I was surprised at what great condition they were in. They are ready to go. We've said they're turnkey, and literally you could probably show up, in the morning and have dinner ready by the end of the day. They're ready to go. They're fully stocked, and we're excited to get them open.
Can you remind me which state parks it is?
I can. We've got Robbers Cave, Beavers Bend. I feel like this is a test, but I can do it. Sequoia, Quartz Mountain, Roman Nose, and Lake Murray. Thank you.
So fire inspections have been done at the restaurant?
Yeah, the Roman Nose is good to go. Beavers Bend, we're still waiting on materials, but we've got a date mid-May that we should be done. But we're working on it as fast as we can.
How many customers do you estimate for the first weekend?
We don't have an estimate. That's interesting. I mean, we hope we have as many as possible, but the restaurants were only open, some of them for varying degrees. The least being, I think, about 3 months, the most being less than a year, and that was during COVID. So we're excited to see what happens, but I think expectations are kind of a little bit, they'd probably be premature at this point because we really don't have data that's going to say this is qualified data that can tell you what will happen.
So likewise, your 13%, you really don't have a ballpark what you're expecting.
Well, we do have, we have sales, but I think 13% in the RFP process, we had many different factors that were, played into that. But this was the deal that was the best for the state. And I don't know what 13% will be. The sales figures were actually included in the RFP that is accessible to the public if you guys would like to look at that and extrapolate 13% from it. I don't know that that's really quality data to probably, anticipate. That being said, I think that the gross sales, that agreement really motivates the vendor as opposed to a flat fee, and so we're excited to partner with them.
I know you said you weren't part of the evaluation committee, but what particularly stood out about this vendor compared to others?
I can speak to it. I truly looked at their bid yesterday for the first time. I mean, that is how removed from the process I was. I can say that it was the best deal for the state when it came down to could they operate the restaurants, and all 6 of the restaurants, it was a weighted RFP. So if you bid on all 6 restaurants, that was weighted differently than bidding on one. It really came down to their business plan. Ultimately, we want a good deal for the state, but we want an organization and we want a business that is going to be successful, that has long-term capabilities. And really, they had a track record that showed not only could they run those restaurants, but the catering arm, which is really important for businesses to be successful. Because you're going to have the high season. We can guarantee there's going to be people there, but really that catering revenue on the backside in those months is really important to make it profitable. And they really had all the factors that said they knew what they were walking into, they could make it successful, and they had the capability and really the reach throughout the state to be able to do it.
I'll ask, what were the mistakes with Swadley's, and have those been corrected with this one?
Myself and the leadership team, they weren't involved. I wasn't here at the agency when that was going on. And, the agency isn't legally allowed to talk about pending litigation.
Are you able to tell me where it stands right now, like where we are in the process?
Of the case?
Swadley's investigation, yeah.
I'm trying to, I honestly, I'm involved, but not, I wasn't a part of it. So I'm getting updates saying, there's emails going back and forth, but that's about it.
Okay.
We're represented by the Attorney General's office.
Okay. And then I have one more question about that. Since the contract has been canceled, do you know how much money the state has lost?
Again, litigation.
And the state, just to be clear, the state park restaurant has been closed since April of last year, is that right?
I believe that's right, yeah.
And how did one get on the chicken fried steak tasting team?
There's always one that asks the hard questions. You're waiting for your moment. I get it. No, I was actually talking about it on the way up here that I'd really like to do soft openings, for at least a few of the restaurants. We're going to be hustling, to that Memorial Day deadline, and I'd love to really invite the communities out and make this something. I want to say that I didn't anticipate something that was really magical is the wrong word, but it made me understand why tourism is important to the state. We did those RFIs and we traveled around to 6 different locations in 2 weeks. And I was driving back from Beaver's Bend at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still alive, but barely. And the magic of it was we went to these communities and I expected vendors to show up, but what really happened is every single one of them, there was community members that came and said, this was important to me and my community. And we celebrated my kid's birthday here. We celebrated my cousin's graduation, and when it closed, it meant something to me that it closed, and I need it to mean something again that it's opening back up. And so I think when I think about that and what tourism does for the state, it's that piece of that emotional attachment that really makes a difference, and I really am excited to see people filling that space and making those new memories. I think that's really important to the state, but it's really important to the people that are part of those communities.
Did you say that, is this a sample menu from one of their operations?
It's a sample menu that they submitted in their bid.
For possibly this, okay.
Yeah. Great question.
Are there any plans to, I understand that this is just the 6 state park restaurants, but are there plans down the line to maybe change up the restaurants at other state parks?
Change up their restaurants at other state parks.
Yeah, do the other state, I know we have a lot more state parks than 6.
We do,
so
absolutely.
I don't know if they all have food
Can you name them all?
dining concepts.
So these are the ones that actually have sit-down dining concepts, right? There was Little Sahara has been kind of on that list of potential And I know that there was some work towards it, but it definitely was not finished. And I'm in no way saying Little Sahara is opening a restaurant, but I think that was, you know, in a plan document that was one that was on the list. And I think it's definitely one that we would look at because there's traffic there, and I could see it being successful. There's not other sit-down dining options currently, and I wouldn't say that the agency like that is on our list of things. I've been here less than 6 months, so it's something that we'll definitely look into. But getting these 6 restaurants up and running is definitely our priority, and making sure that, you know, workforce and that we're doing all the things right. But I think long-term planning, that's definitely something we'd look at.